Hi, this is Allie. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about communication. Not that I'm an expert, I just happen to have some learning lessons through my life. I thought that would be very good to share. The reason I brought this up is because I was watching two people in my office yesterday who's a friend of mine, and they're very close to me, but they were talking, and you can tell they were not listening to each other. Well, one is definitely not listening. The other one's better, but I think it's getting to a frustrated point where he was just going on and on and on. So it makes me realize the importance of communication. It makes me realize that how important it is to not try to be right in a relationship. I remember I used to always argue, even if I just argue for the sake of arguing. I just needed to be right. I need to have the last word, and it didn't help at all. And back in the day when I, like a year and a half ago, I don't remember, time passed pretty fast, where my husband totaled my car. And immediately I said, why did you do that? You drive too fast. I told you don't drive too fast, blah, 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 blah. And so immediately he says, like, by you yelling at me does not make me feel better. By you yelling at me did not solve any problem. What value did you add to that situation, right? It only made me even more frustrated. And so I realized, I caught myself. I said, I'm so sorry, because what I should have said is that, hey, are you okay? Are you hurt? A car is a car, right? I mean, it's not a good thing that he totaled it, but the car is still not as important as a person. But if I immediately jump into that kind of screaming, yelling, makes him feel like I don't even value him. I value the object more than I value him, right? So I think a relationship we tend to, especially, it's a tendency we grew up with. I remember when I was learning in growing up, my mom has a tendency to yell. So that's probably where I got it from too. So let's say I break a glass. She's like, "Are you stupid or something? Don't you know to put the glass inside a little bit more so you don't drop, you don't break it? I can see it coming." And I remembered I felt horrible. And then I do exactly the same thing to someone else, right? So it's so important is to really listen and not adding aggravation. So let's say, for instance, there is a communication issue, and the person tell you you're not listening. Just listen to see if whatever they say has any value. Don't try to justify that you are listening. We are a good listener. If the fact that we are saying we're a good listener, it's already the fact that we're not listening, because otherwise, why would that person feel like they're not being listened to? So it's really, really important to take away the need to be right. Take away the need to be having the last word, because, would you rather be right or would you rather be loved? I mean, it's such an easy thing to say, but it's much, much harder to do. And I go through, 7 years of my relationship. And one thing, if nothing else, a lot of things good about that relationship. But my husband and I think one thing I learned from my husband is that he would taught me how to communicate better. He taught me that to be patient. Things like that at the car accident. I learned to communicate. I learned to show him that I care about him, not the object. I learned to say, hey, maybe next time, are you okay if you drop the glass of water on yourself or whatever? Just say, hey, are you okay? Maybe next time put the glass inside a little bit more so you don't, drop it on yourself, right? So it helps when we offering something that will help with the situation versus yelling and just screaming at that person, adding more aggravation to that, and then just tell them how they do wrong. I think it does not help. Just pay attention to what people say and not take it into personal, like when they say you're not listening, take it that is a bad thing. Just listen. If they say I'm not listening, is it true that I'm not listening? To see what part of that is true, and then see how we can change it to make other people realize that we care about that person. And I think it will help all of our relationship much more. I mean, the team building business definitely will help my team to know that I care and listen, right? I hope this helps.